Welcome back. It's Kevin. I'm the host of Hats and Guitars. I'm doing this for a very long time. It all began from me working at Big Hat Shop, the old Stetson shop that used to be on Fifth Avenue from 94 till about 1 year ago, 30 years. Working at that shop, getting a very big clientele. The shop got sold and kind of disappeared, and I needed a way to sort of keep you guys close to me. I can't do this, it just doesn't work. So I created a Facebook group called Hats and Guitars Show Your Hats, where I'm there every single day answering questions about hats, giving advice. People ask me, "Hey Kev, what's up? I got this jacket or something like that. I need to go with it. What do you think?" And I also have a hat company, so a lot of times I suggest, "Well, why don't I make you this hat or that hat? A camel hat with chocolate trim. How about a Hamburg?" But also, I've just been the guy to give hat advice for a long, long time. Since my YouTube channel began, since I started at the hat shop on Fifth Avenue, I've always been giving advice. It's one reason why I have so many friends out there in YouTube land and, Facebook land or whatever, just people globally that know Kevin, and I know them, very much so through the Facebook group. It's a good way to really get hooked up and tuned into the community. The community is what? Okay, it's a hat wearing community of people who are, I'm going to say, serious about their hats. We're not serious, but, we've been wearing hats. There's newbie guys, there's old B guys. We help each other out. Everybody's just kind of like, hey, what's a good hat to buy? A Kubra. It's good for, bad weather and rain. And then 5 other guys would be like, I second that. Yeah, Kubra's great. Or somebody will say, why don't you buy a KTG? Kevin will help you out. He's helped me out. Great, And by the way, people who do wear KTG hats, if you really love them, put a couple of reviews up there for me on the Facebook page, KTG Hats on Facebook. We've got 3 reviews. But, I've got something like 179 hats out there or something. So if anybody feels like giving a review, good, bad, or medium, on the quality, the colors, the service, the selection, anything, I'd be happy to see it. Things like customer feedback is kind of what makes my hat company flourish. I know I'm going off on a tangent. That's one of my things. It's like part of my personality or something. I go off on tangents. Anyway, KTG Hats is something that started after I left the hat shop. So now that's basically what I do. I sell my own hat brand, which are made at a 100-year-old factory in Quebec, Canada. We design them together. I design the hats. You throw the colors together, or maybe you want to make some little alterations and change it up a little bit. We can make you a hat that's like affordable and stuff. That's not, like $500 or anything. Something that's cost the same as whatever, another company, the big S company, or, whatever, Celentino or any of those guys. We're just kind of like I'm trying not to be a high price company. I'm trying to be a reasonable for a felt hat company, so that you guys can have collections of hats that you've dreamed about. Like if you've always wanted a dark olive Hamburg, or a powder blue Hamburg, or just something crazy. Maybe you want a Stevie Ray Vaughan hat, flat brim with a gambler crown in all black with a turquoise band, or whatever. We can do it. A leather band. I can make flat brims. I can make boulders, pork pies. I could do a pork pie in 1.5 inch, 1 3/4 inch, or in 2 inch. Hamburgs, I could make that. We could make a Hamburg without the bound edge, a Lord's hat, and all you have to do is just do this and pinch it when you get home. It will stay pinched, yes. All you got to do is email me at my name, Kevin Todd Gerber. Kevin is KEVIN TODDGERBER at gmail.com. Okay, and we can discuss a build, and it's about 8 weeks. All right, let's get that out of the way. Let's talk about some of the things that I want to talk about today. I want to talk about a lot of different things. I want to talk about, first of all, crown heights. I want to unlock the mysteries of crown heights and just talk about it.
Talk about those crown heights, yeah.
The height of a crown. For a very long time, people would always ask me crown heights. Sometimes we'd go and measure them. Usually I had this like stock answer to just kind of like dismiss them, because to me, crown height was a non-issue. It was kind of like, all right, I've got this huge pedal steamer here, and I could make the height whatever I'd like. I could lower it, for anybody. So, why are we worried? But later I started to learn more about it. For many, many years, I really didn't know crown heights. I knew a little bit about Western crown heights, not much else. The reason is because I always felt, look, if you're a guy who just likes a low crown, just tell me. I'll lower the crown for you, okay? You basically just lower the frontier, okay? You lower it slightly, like this, looking down at your chin. You just bring the front down a little. That's it. You can steam it in, So you bring it down, or you bring it back up, just right to make the shape look pretty, so it looks like the old shape, That's how you lower a crown. Now, I felt that the subject was unnecessary, because all you could do is just tell me, look, Kev, just lower the crown for me. And now in hindsight, I'm starting to realize how frustrating that must have been for a lot of people. Like, yeah, Kev is just not answering me there. For a long time, I never dealt with it. I never really cared about it, because it was like this. Do you like a high crown? Do you like a low crown? Okay, you like a low crown? Well, I'd say stay away from like the Borsellino, Alessandria, and the Como, and the hats that are super, super high. But anything else, just let me know. I'll just lower the crown for you a little, But now I realize that people have exact crown heights that they like and stuff. And it's a good way to there's a language, okay? Knowing what's high, what's low, at least for fedoras and dress hats and stuff. Talking about crown height, okay. Think about most hat crowns are gonna be 4 inch, 4.5 inch, or 5 inch, okay? If they're 5.5, it's something real high, like a vintage hat or a Western hat. Westerns start getting into 5, 5.5, and 6, okay? But 5.5 and 6 are gonna be either like a high vintage hat, an open crown hat, okay? Open crown is popped open. Okay, so if it's measured up here at 5.5, you're not gonna wear it at that height usually. You wear it lower, 4, 4.5, 5, whatever. Okay, so your hats are measured at its highest point. An open crown hat is measured open, okay? You start here at the bottom, right here where it starts at the crown. You measure up to its highest point you can get, which might be right in the middle of the hat, generally the center of the side. All right, so this is a fairly low hat here. Let me get it. It's a vintage hat though. All right, it's not an open crown hat, so we want to shape it the way it's shaped from the factory. We start at 0 here, okay, and it's, all right, not bad. It's actually 4 3/4. That's a fairly high crown for a little brim hat like this. This is like a 2-inch brim or something. No, not even. It's like a 1.5 inch brim. Okay, so a 1.5 inch brim with a 4 3/4 over here means it's a nice vintage hat. It's got a good full crown. Well, you figure 4 is low. Okay, 4 is going to be like a low hat, sort of like a modern lowish hat. The Sinclair, the Ontario, the McGill hats, the Comet by KTG hats. A lot of Stetsons, common hats that are very popular. They can be 4-inch. It's low, but it's not super low. It's just like, I don't know, kind of regular or something. Okay, now as you go a little higher, the hats get a little, bolder. Some people that are new at this look at this and they'll say, okay, that looks kind of tall on me. Uh-oh. I'm not used to that, okay? That's a thing too. New hat wearers think that crowns look a little high. When you're gonna wear something that's just new for you, you're not used to it, you focus in on that and it just seems a little big for you, okay? You need to keep staring, keep looking, and you need to look at this whole head, this whole as one shape, right here, okay? You need to look at this and this now as separate shapes. Here's a shape. Here's a shape, okay? Now look at it from an artist's perspective. So this shape and this shape have a good composition. Do they look balanced? Not balanced like, are they the same shape? They should not be the same, but do they look comfortable together as a composition, as a painting? Think about the whole thing, the slant of this everything. This is a very abstract way of thinking, I know. I actually went to art school, so some of you guys did, some of you guys didn't. It's an abstract-y way to think, but this and this, look at the whole thing. Look at them two shapes. My face here, there, okay? This is like a U shape. Now look at this shape. There's a balance between two uneven shapes when they come together, okay? Even with this too, there's a balance, like a, what's the word? A composition or a wabi-sabi, sort of a balancing out that happens. Now, it's a balance that's created in your mind. It doesn't really exist, okay? What it consists of is basically you, your face, plus crown, I don't know, and brim equals what? What does it equal? Does it equal something you like? Does it equal something that, keep looking at it, okay? Does it equal something that looks really big now? Or does it look damn good? Now look at this guy's hat. The more you focus in on it, you start to realize, okay, there's a balance that looks good on Kevin. Kevin always wears this 5-inch hat. Okay, it doesn't look big on me or tall, like a big tall hat, but it doesn't look low either. It just looks like kind of an extension of my head, turns it into this kind of full thing. But it looks kind of right. It just looks, well, making it lower is going to make it look different, okay? It's going to take away from its boldness, authenticity, and dressiness. Now look at that. There's something wrong there. It just doesn't look right. It looks dumpy or something. A little bit of height gives you some flair and pizzazz. It gives you There's a familiarity to this look as compared to this. It's like a Borsellino look. The 5-inch crown. This, I forgot how many lines this is. 1¼ inch band. That's the Borsellino look. That's the Borsellino Classico. The Como is a tiny bit higher, but it still goes on the same angle to a little bit more, okay? And a lot of times I used to lower it to this. So the Como is the same crown going up a little bit more, like a 1/2 inch more or so. Where the Alessandria goes up like this. That would be closer to my open crown shape, okay? Like the film goes up, or the Alessandria, okay? This is a square look. It's a Humphrey Bogart look. That's when people go open crown, because there's less taper, okay? Now, taper is part of the hat game. Obviously, you're not going to wear something completely square, but there's different, it's a spectrum. There's different amounts. It's a letter A to different degrees, okay? And this is what makes designing. Like the Como goes up here, it looks more old-fashioned and kind of nostalgic. The Classico cut, which I've got right here, is basically like a modern Borsellino look. It's high enough for people to digest, to feel good in, but not too high where it's going to turn people off, where their wife is going to say, that's too high. There are some people out there who are vintage purists. They love vintage stuff. The higher the better, okay? And they have a good handle on shaping hats themselves. They're not scared to buy an open crown hat and start shaping it up. Just dive in. You don't need steam or anything. I mean, steam is good. You could steam it in at the end, but you could shape these KTGs without steam. We talked about the 4-inch crown being a little bit low. More, I don't know what the word is. It can look a little bit more old manish, but it can also look more balanced. Okay, there is a balance here and here, remember? Now remember, if this balance is not being struck in the way that you're used to or that you like, there's going to be something off on the balance and you're going to notice it. Or it's going to give you a different look. So lower crowns look more casual. Pumpkin spice, Nespresso. Lower crowns will look more casual, but they're really cool like that. If you want to go a little punky and hang out like you're playing, you got your guitar on, you do something like this, you're gonna just look kind of, casual and cool. You could throw that out with your leather jacket, okay? It's gonna have a jazzy, cool, young look. Higher is going to look more vintage, but it's going to look more, what's the word? I guess more balanced. The opposite, I guess it's going to look more dressy, okay? As you start going higher, the crowns will look more real, authentic. They don't look like something that's so modern right off the street, like a $25 Trilby, which could be super, super low. That's just a casual modern look. As you go a little higher, it starts to have an authenticity to it. It starts to look like a real deal. There is a reason why vintage hats are so in demand, and they're always selling. They're all over eBay and they're constantly selling. If I've got 28,000 subscribers out there, maybe 5,000 of those people are guys who look on eBay for, vintage hats. That's huge. Maybe 1,000 of them, maybe 500, but that's a huge amount. Let's talk about these crowns now, okay? Higher is always going to look a little bit more dressy, but it's also going to look more authentic, okay? It's going to give you a more like real look. You don't want to go beyond this window though, okay? My window, you know, might be, I don't know, 4.5 to 5 looks really good to me. Okay, I've tried my Galaxy on, which is 4.5, and it looks good. I've tried this on, which is 5. I think it looks good. Above that, you know, some people are gonna love it, but I'm not gonna like it. 4 I would look better at 4.5, but it's okay. You know, it's okay. So that's my window. You can try on a hat, take it right off your head, because you know that balance is off. But a lot of times it's something you're not used to seeing, and you got to give it some time. Center it, get it centered, do your thing. If you're an up guy, you're a down guy, play around with it, do your different things, get your angle down, whatever you like. Keep looking, okay? Don't take it right off. You are going to learn more things about the wrong crown height than the right crown height. Okay? Don't be scared that people are looking at you and you're too self-conscious to leave it on for more than a couple of seconds. If that's the case, ask for some privacy. Say, do you think I could just be alone in the mirror for like, 10 minutes to just really focus in on this? I'm sorry. And they'll be like, yeah, no problem. They'll walk away, And if they say, what do you think? Be like, do you think I could just like look in the mirror like alone for a minute? I need just a little time. Yeah. They want to make the sale, so they're gonna, they'll clear out. Get them out of the way. Now focus in on your hat. Say, okay, this hat looked high before. Let's look at it. Kevin says keep it on. Okay, it's a little high, but it kind of looks balanced too. Focus in, okay? Or say, would it look better like that? Would I like that better? I'm doing that now and I'm realizing, no, that doesn't look better. That looks wrong. Like, damn, Kevin was right. This is the height for me. 5 inches is good. Sky piece is a little bit high enough to look like a Borsalino, which is the lower end of the Borsalino spectrum, the Classico, okay? There's different heights. They have all different stuff. The New Yorker, which is my 3-inch brim, the Morgan, which is the same hat in a 2 3/4 inch brim, and the Sky piece, which is this one, 2.5 inch, all have the same center crease, which is 5. This is a 5. 5 is kind of like the center crease that is just a tiny bit higher, okay? Remember, a Stetson Whippet is a 4.5 inch, and nobody ever complains that a Whippet is too high, like never. The Sinclair, the Comet, the typical Stetsons, these are around 4. We said 4 inches the lowest. It's like a Stetson Temple. This is a 4.5. This one here is 4.5 inch high. Okay, so figure a temple is like a really common look. It's a good look. Okay, it's not it's not like a connoisseur's cork sniffer's hat that's like super high or anything like that. It's a hat meant for everybody, that every man will like, okay? It might be something like 4.5 inch or something like that, okay? Then when you get into teardrop hats, the typical teardrop hat like the KTG Galaxy, or the most common, most iconic teardrop hat on the modern market, the Stetson Whippet. Yeah, it's here for the Whippet. Everybody loves their Whippets, okay? That is a 4.5 inch, kind of a chunky crown, so it's broad in the front, okay? Some teardrops are broad in the back, actually, okay? The Stetson is kind of front wide. So it's good for a guy with a wide face who's got just a little bit more going on the sides too, because it kind of echoes that line, okay? When you have too much taper on a big face, it could sometimes look like, make that guy look fat. But that wouldn't happen so much on a big crown. It would happen more on a very low crown that's, okay? That's just not balanced. Okay, so let's talk about the 4.5 inch. 4 is like at your lowest, it's gonna be like, you know, kind of a safe height. 4.5 is like that too. Okay, that's the height of a Whippet. It's the height of the Celentino Hamilton, otherwise known as the Queen, Celentino Queen. Those are all teardrops that are really like, what do you call it, nostalgic looking. They have piping here, brim binding, a teardrop, kind of a wide band. We talked about the Whippet. There's the Queen, otherwise known as the Celentino Hamilton. Okay. There's also the KTG, the Galaxy, or the KTG Nostalgia, or the KTG Satellites. Okay. Those are 3 teardrop models that we make. These are all 4.5 inch hats. So 4.5 inch is still pretty darn low. It's a 1/2 inch lower than I'm going here, you know? So it's a good low hat, you know? But these lower hats do look good when they're chunky too, you know? So that's what the Galaxy looks like. It's a hat that's low and wide, like a low rider. It's got a wide band, you know, 1.5 inch band. It's got wide piping. If you're talking about the KTG Galaxy, it's got extra wide piping, a little wider. Right. 4.5 inch is a good height for a teardrop. It's not a high teardrop. It's a teardrop that every man will love. It's just a good height. It's medium, I guess. The Galaxy, all of these hats. I believe the Akubra Stylemaster is a little bit taller. I used to get people telling me to bring the front of the Stylemaster to the same height as a Whippet or Stratoliner. So what it is their height is like the same, except the front is really high. Stylemaster might be a little higher, like a 5 or something. Part of what makes it look so good. I don't know, it could be a 4.5 also. It's a typical look. The 4.5 inch teardrop with binding is just like a thing. The Galaxy, the Hamilton, blah, 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 the Whippet. A lot of people make it. Every company has their version of it. The Fox or the whatever from Henry. They all make the same style. It's the whippity doodah style. It's popular. You know, it's like an old-time nostalgic look that isn't super high. So it's a great style to get into when we're getting into hats, but we don't want to go overboard, okay? We don't want these things to look like a costume. We don't want people to stare at them and say, what's with this guy, you know? You don't want to be like, gotta dance, gotta, like MGM, Fred Astaire, what do you call it, that kind of stuff. Maybe you do. A lot of my customers are really like that. I've got magician customers, musician customers, dancers, jugglers, and I've got vintage purists. People who do want to look like they're wearing a hat from that period. That's where the next category goes. 5.5 inch crowns, the open crown. The open crown is generally measured open, okay? So if they say 5.5 inch open crown, that's before it's been shaped yet. You can bring that down, the 5.5, bring it down to a 5. You could bring it down to a 4.5. You could bring it down to a 4. You could bring it down to a pork pie that's, 3 3/4. You can do whatever you like with it once you start shaping it. 5.5 is at its highest point. That's not a creased hat, basically. So we get the open crown because we want a certain look. We want a hand creased crown, either a center crease or a teardrop or a diamond. They're going to look wider in front and kind of chunkier, and they're going to have more height. The reason why a lot of people like them too is, okay, they go up like this, okay, and then they make a round. So because it doesn't taper at this point, it starts tapering here, you can get a bigger band on it, okay? If I tried to put a huge band on this, like up here, it would be over this gap, and there would be a gap behind the band, okay? You don't want a gap behind the band. The band should go as high as you want, but never as high as that pinch. There should be enough clearance. So the only hats that can really get a 2-inch band are open crowns. If you're dealing with typical hat block, center crease, teardrops, things like that, Homburg, they're not gonna fit 2-inch usually. Maybe a Homburg, but 1 3/4 might balance out better or something. But open crown goes up, and then it makes a round turn, okay? So when you make this crease and you pinch it, it doesn't have the same look. It has more of it's a higher look, okay? But when you start lowering that with teardrops and everything, it gets more of this old-time look, like an old Superman episode or something. Remember that? Was that George Reeves? Dun, 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 you remember that, right? And everybody was like, "Hey, Superman, give me the scoop, Superman. What's the scoop? Where's Clark? Has anybody seen Clark?" They all have that look where their hats look different. Like there's no bubbles inside the teardrop coming up. Because they're so high, you can make the teardrop and just bring it down and not up again, you know. Their hats just sit different because they're hand creased. Hand creasing is different. A lot of people are scared to do it. I would say, don't be scared to do it if you're handy. If you're a handy kind of guy, you don't really need to mess with the steam. If you just get your open crown and you just hit it with the crease, just crease it. Yeah, so if you get your open crown like this, you know, and you just do that, or you do it that way I showed you in the middle, and when you get to the sides, it kind of stops. Okay, you just make a crease, one-handed crease, huh? Okay. So, all right, it's not that hard. You just do that and you're good. Then you pinch it, you're good to go. From there, turning it into a teardrop is not terribly hard either. But already you've got your old nostalgic look. You know, that's it. That's all you need to do. But basically, all you have to do is just, you know, give it a center crease, which is super easy, just kind of like, you know, and grab it. What I would suggest, if you are a new hat guy and you've never done any of this stuff and you're scared, I mean, there is a certain beauty to a hat that's already pre-shaped, like a Stetson Stratoline or a Stetson Whippet. People never complain that these hats aren't hand-shaped. Some purists do, you know, but they have a nice shape. You know, they have a nice 4.5-inch teardrop. So does the Galaxy. So does the Nostalgia. So does the Satellite. They're just teardrops at 4.5 inch, and it's a nice shape. It looks good on a lot of people. It's kind of a good broad shape. Now, the Sky piece, what I'm wearing, is a Borsalino cut, which has a little bit more taper, but it's higher. So it looks good on a lot of people. It kind of gives you this suave, kind of handsome look. It's distracting when it's in a really flashy color like this. It's kind of distracting, and it's hard to just focus in on the shape. You could notice it more when you're dealing with like a beige one or a gray one or a white one or something. But I don't want to put on one of those right now. I'd rather just wear mine. So the shape itself is flattering. It's kind of like that classic Panama shape, very suave, romantic. It's got a romantic look to it. This is the Borsalino look, very Italian, European. It's got a romance to it. This shape is proven to look beautiful on men and ladies. Okay, if you want to go a little higher, then we're talking about more like a Borsalino Como or a KTG Premier. Okay, our open crown hats are going to be a little higher than this 5. They're going to be a 5.5. Not a huge difference, but they are a little broader. Okay, so you're getting a little bit more of that Indiana Jones, Cairo thing, or whatever it is, that squared look. Humphrey Bogart, a little bit more like those old shots of Bogart, the shots of that movie Borsalino, where you see their hats just kind of slant up a little bit more, and they look a little bolder and more romantic looking. The Premier. So we have two models. We have the one with the edge, it's called the Galaxy Premier, and we have the one with the raw edge. Okay, the binding is called the Galaxy Premier. That's Open Crown Galaxy. Then we have a raw edge Premier. That's the Nostalgia Premier. Okay, Open Crown 5.5 inch, raw edge is Nostalgia. Big wide binding is called the Galaxy Premier. These are our vintage purist hats. These are hats that people want to shape it themselves, or they want that look, like, you know, like Indiana Jones hat, square kind of. Not a look that many hat companies make. You're going custom now, kind of, you know. So we have a third hat called the Starlight, which is the same hat, a big baggy, like an Alessandria crown, with more of a narrow piping, kind of like that open road skinny stuff. I call that hat the Starlight. So we've got the Starlight with the skinny binding and the skinny band. We've got the Galaxy Premier, which is a wide band, wide binding. And then we've got Nostalgia Premier. These are the 3 open crown hats. Nostalgia is a wide band with a raw edge. Okay, so that's like a really authentic hat. The Galaxy is a little more vintagey, like it's got that more two-tone thing going on with the big binding. Okay, and the Starlight is a little bit more laid back, elegant, dressy. Of course, it's got very thin trim here and very thin trim here. You could do it solid silver belly, just an all silver belly hat. It will look just so elegant. So yeah, 5.5 is high. It's for somebody who embraces the height. They want more height, okay? 5.5 is not for everybody, but it can be brought down. If you go open crown, you also have the option to do Western shapes. You could do a cattleman crease and get like an open road look. That will work with 5.5. You can also do something like a gambler or a pork pie shape if you want to go flat. That also will work. There are some tricks to doing that correctly. I could show you them, but easiest way is to, get a ruler and measure out another height of a particular height that you works well. If there's a Stevie Ray Vaughan hat that you saw, like Kevin had one in some video, say, Kev, how high is that black Cygnus Spanish hat? I tell you, well, that was 5.25. Then you can make your hat 5.25, and that's a safe height. The tendency with gamblers and pork pies is to go too low. Be like, yeah, I like a really low, cool hat. And then you go too low, and what happens is it's a big bubble hanging out on top. The crown's down here, and the bubble's like just showing like a clowny thing. So it's got to be high enough in the crown to hide your scalp. If your scalp is right here, you can't go lower than that, okay? You might want to, and you might think it's cool, but you just can't. In the long run, when you make the hat, you'll see it's low enough, okay? Here's the other thing. If you go too low, you screwed it up. You can't go back up again because you already made that line, and it's just like if you get rid of it, you're going to see that the felt is just going to be creased already. If you go too high, you could always go back lower again and just roll that part into the shadows. They'll never see it, and just start again a little lower. So it's always safer going for the higher one. You go too low and then you undo that and go back high again, you're going to see that crease forever. And it's effed, we'll say. Pork pies are tricky. What's a typical pork pie hat height? I don't know. It depends on the size. A lot of it is the size. Like if you're talking about an average size, it's different. Here's a pork pie. This one is a small size. It's a size 7, okay? This baby is 3 1/4. Okay, so let's figure out a real size, like a 7 3/8 or 7 1/4. This has got to be a 3 1/2 inch crown. Okay, so figure the lowest you can go. See, look at that though. Look at that. It looks like crap, right? That looks like crap. This is a symptom of the hat being too big. It was too big on him, and then he bottomed out on the top. What happened. It could also be a symptom of the hat was higher before and he lowered it. That's what I'm seeing here. It looks like there's two different, see that? Yeah. I think he tried to make it lower. That's my guess. So yeah, see, you can't do that. Once it's creased, you can't get rid of those creases. So this was brought to various heights that all sucked, and then he tried to bring it up a little higher, and it was still too low. Don't wear your pork pie hat too loose. If it's too loose, you're gonna pop the top out, and then what happens is you stretch this. This part actually gets stretched. So even if you bring the hat back to open crown, open it, open the ball up, and then shape it again and try to look for that original shape, that part, the fabric itself is stretched, okay? So it's always going to be misshapen. It's hard to explain, but it's not that it's out of shape, it's that it's actually stretched, you know what I mean? So there's a flexibility to this stuff, believe it or not. It happens after a long time. It has to be like repetitive motion and stuff. But yeah, don't go too low. We're gonna say pork pies 3 3/4 to 4. That's low. Okay. What else? Don't worry about when you buy an open crown. Don't worry about the height so much, okay? You could bring it down to almost any height you'd like. So, once you crease it, you could bring it down there, you could bring it down to there, you could bring it there, you could bring it up. There's a spectrum here where you can go. You could bring the back higher than the front and do some kind of gussy thing too, you know, if you wanted to get funky. There's all kinds of advantages to having high crowns. You could have one side high, one side low. You can get a nice square edge by just, you know, gambler, just get everything at the right height and just square it off. You do that by putting it upside down and rubbing inside from the center out until you make like a little lip there, sort of. That's tough to explain. But yeah, you can do that, you know. Flattening it out is basically steaming it, putting it against the top, bam, 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 turn it up, you know. Again, you want to measure, you want to get everything to the same height to do your gambler. Once it's at the same height, flip it, steam it, press inside against the tabletop, and you can get that flat pork pie thing. You'll figure it out. It's kind of like making an omelet. You start at the beginning, flattening as you go out to the edge, and you'll wind up with like a little moat around the edge, like a pork pie hat, sort of like that. This little moat will form. Because on the inside, what you're making is that. Okay, so you're going from the center, out, against the tabletop. Remember, like this. You use your flat knuckles like this. Flat, flat, flat. Starting in the center, working your way out until you get this little lip. And then you go, you stop, and you check it out. And that's how you make a pork pie. It's not that hard. We're scared.